All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher alongside Drew Dinsick in the flesh. Heard about the weather and all the happenings in Stamford, Connecticut. Made his way up on the red eye from Long Beach, California, here in person to talk. We're going to do a little NL MVP off the top because, of course, we are. And then we're going to talk Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL and Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're going to hit a lot of these awards in the NFL this week before the season kicks off. But let's start with Mookie Betts. Drew, did you watch him on the weekend?
Yeah, you know what? He's pretty impressive. I like his contributions to the game of baseball, and I think he should be rewarded in some way for his outstanding efforts this season. I just really wish I had someone in my life tell me that he was a good price like this time last. I mean, it's a little too early to get excited here. There's still a lot of baseball left to be played, but you certainly have to love what you're seeing from the Dodgers right now from a team effort. A little bit of a pivot here in this market as Mookie is now the -145 favorite, and rightfully so.
Yes, I think one of these, one, two, maybe three of these awards crusades pop up every year. I think back to Bryce Harper and LMVP, Marcus Smart, DPOY, Manuel Quickley, Sixth Man of the Year, and Mookie this at the moment. And I think the good thing about the Mookie Betts crusade is that, like I did with Quickley, I genuinely do think the Betts has the best case at the moment, where now he is lapping Ronald Acuna in WAR and OPS, and those are the two stats that are most predictive of MVP I've found. Every MVP winner dating back to the great Dustin Pedroia in 2008 has been top two in OPS or WAR, and often is the leader in either one of them. Right now, Ronald Acuna in F-WAR, which is what I'm referring to, he's third behind Betts and Freddie Freeman. And in OPS, he's now down to fourth as we're recording this Monday afternoon. He's behind Betts, obviously, Freeman and Olsen. 43-point OPS gap over a WAR separating them. And also the fact that Mookie Betts just refuses to register any outs at the moment tends to help. I think because of the steals, that if it is neck and neck, I think Acuna would probably win. But right now it's not neck and neck. Betts has some distance. And so right now the way I price this market out, I make Betts -180 after last night when we're recording. Acuna went 0-4, and Betts obviously 3-for-5 with that home run in Boston. I make Acuna +300 fair, and I make Freddie Freeman +900. And on merit, I think Freeman has pretty decent case for second behind Betts, but I just think that he's going to get washed away a little bit in the race. But he's definitely not he's not done either. I mean, what else do you think about this race? Anything that you're looking for in the last month?
Well, I mean, I would like to hear people start bringing up the defensive contributions that Betts is making, and just the fact that he is electively changed positions this year, and yet he's still performing at a Gold Glove or a Gold Glove adjacent level is incredible. That's very cool. And I would expect that if the Dodgers can run down the Braves and be your one seed overall, then that would basically put a nail in this one. But winning baseball at this time of year as a team at a team level and being sort of the catalyst for it is about as strong a case as you could hope for. And so, assuming that doesn't change course between now and we're putting a bow on this thing, then I love the trajectory here.
Yep, and there's a big series coming up at the end of this week where Atlanta go to LA to play the Dodgers 4 times, which I think will, people are going to talk about that as the MVP showdown, really high leverage. I mean, it is high leverage in a way. At the same time, it's not like Acuna or Betts, vice versa, can put the other in the post and just truck them like Joel Embiid did Nikola Jokic.
That's a good point.
And I think that the fact that there'll still be a month to go in the season, I don't think that series will be definitive or anything, though it will certainly help whoever can have the better series if there is margin. But now, if you're on Betts from here, you just want to play Acuna to a draw. So I think if the vote was held today, the Betts would actually win, because a 43-point OPS gap and being the far superior defender, that's pretty definitive to me. And I understand the steals with Acuna, but that's really all he's got at the moment. And the fact the Braves are 4 up on the Dodgers, I don't think that really matters. They're 4 up on the Dodgers because they have Spencer Strider and the Dodgers don't have any pitchers. So, yeah, it's one to certainly we'll track the rest of the way. But I think
Spencer Strider worth the bet in the NL Cy Young market right now?
I think he is. And as someone who's very much in Team Strider over Team Gallon in that market, wasn't happy that the Braves have pushed him back a day, and now he has to face the Dodgers instead of facing the Rockies, though he would have been in cause. But I make Strider plus 175 in that market. I make Gallon plus 200. There's still some plus 250 about Strider. He's just the better pitcher, and everyone thinks he's the better pitcher, and his peripherals are better. And I think if he gets within 0.3 of an ERA of Gallon, which is right on the precipice right now, I think that'd be enough for him to win. So, yeah, certainly against one Brave in one key market, but riding with another Brave in Cy Young. All right, before we get to Offensive Player of the Year, Roto World Draft Week is officially here all week long. We've got drafts, articles, and more from all your favorite Roto World talent and special guests. Get all you need to dominate your upcoming fantasy drafts. Go to nbcsports.com/fantasy to see the schedule of all that is happening this week and use the code CHAMP23 to save 20% at checkout and receive a $10 Fanatics gift card. All right. Offensive Player of the Year, Jahmyr Chase, the favorite at 10-1, which is very short. Justin Jefferson, 13-1. Christian McCaffrey leads the running backs. He's 15-1. Nick Chubb, 18-1. Then Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. What do you make of this market?
Well, I think we can officially cross off Colt McCoy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think we can also, you know what? Let's just rule out all the Cardinals. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Marcus Brown. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I think Chase is a false favorite here.
Yep.
I don't mind saying this. I know that there is a lot of love for him in the fantasy community. I know there's a lot of expectation that he is going to take the same sort of progressive step forward that Jefferson did last year and put up record-setting type of numbers. But the problem was there were no other mouths to feed in Minnesota last year until they traded for Hawkinson. And that opposite is true for the Cincinnati Bengals, where you have a plethora of very, very talented receiving options. And you have just in general an offensive line that should do better in the run block. So they may even have a more balanced offense this year than they did last year. Not even to mention the injury questions that still are very ever so lightly swirling around Joe Burrow. So Chase to me is, I get why he's a popular pick. People are expecting him to, continue the progress and be the best receiver in football. And for some reason, the market has decided that this is a de facto non-quarterback award. And that's where I take the most exception. I think that if you are a quarterback who's contributing on the ground and through the air, and you're, potentially putting together passing plus rushing all-time yards in a campaign in 2023, you are live for this award. And so that brings, Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields into the picture for me. And between those two players, I think the case for Fields is stronger because, number one, I think the Eagles have a slightly less impressive defense that they're running out there this year, combined with a more difficult schedule, which means if the Eagles want to replicate one seed success, if they want to replicate NFC East title, they're going to have to score 30 points a game. They're not going to have the ability to throttle down Fields in the second half of contests as they are trying to protect 20-point leads, which was the case in a lot of games last season. And then you combine that with the fact that he's got the best receiving core in the national, in the NFC, in my opinion. And it just in general is going to have to be the engine on the ground, particularly from the scoring touchdowns in the red zone standpoint. And I think we can see a pretty spectacular output from him this season. And I like him. Initially bet him in the 30-1 range. He's 20-1 right now. Looking at the current numbers, I still think that's value. Hurts, I'm expecting to continue to be a factor as we get into just MVP conversation, even beyond OPOY. But if there's a little less team success, I think that basically his what's the right word? His flowers will be in the OPOY market instead of MVP if the Eagles are, say, like 11-6.
Yeah, I think it would have been an interesting test case last year if, say, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill had 15% worse seasons, and then you've got wide receivers where the best are around 1,500 yards, and then Josh Jacobs is the best running back, but he's on a bad team. And would they just have given Jalen Hurts Offensive Player of the Year? It's, to me, a little bit of a red flag that he didn't get any love, really, for that award. And there have been a number of voters who have come out and have said that, I'm treating this as the de facto best non-quarterback offensive player. At the same time, I think that we are perhaps a little bit biased by, so we have had 4 skill position players in a row win this award. Derrick Henry, Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson. They all had like historic type of seasons. Yeah. So we don't really have a test case in the past 4 years for, seasons where Ezekiel Elliott was the best skill position player, but it was like 1550 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns or whatever. Whether he would just win that or whether it would just default to the quarterback that doesn't win MVP or does win MVP and has just an insane statistical production. Because historically, this award used to be Peyton Manning gets MVP and Drew Brees gets OPOY because he puts up the more mind-blowing stats, but it doesn't come with the team success or probably more to the point, just the efficiency of touchdown to interception ratio. This award is more about volume. So, yeah, I wouldn't dismiss the quarterbacks. And I do think there is an angle to your point where a couple of years ago, I was heavily invested in Lamar Jackson at 25-1 to win this award, just because he was very live at that point when I bet him to break the all-time single-season yards record combined for passing and rushing. I thought that if he did that and led the Ravens to a top 2 seed, then he'd be right in the mix. As it happens, Kupp and Taylor had historic seasons and Lamar got hurt, so it was kind of a moot point. But I do think that is potentially in play. What do you think?
I think that's a brilliant breakdown. What I want to ask you is there a potential for this year that there are just too many good wide receivers that are pretty close, right? I mean, if there's not one standout and you have like shades of gray between the likes of Chase, Jefferson, Hill, I would even put, potentially Cooper Kupp, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs. Like there's probably a group of 10 who are going to be pretty close when it all, when the dust settles in terms of statistical output. And if there's, if it's impossible to distinguish between that group, can a quarterback steal it?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we might just be at the point now where there is so much passing in the league that someone every year is just going to get 1,700 receiving yards. And if they do that, then I think they would probably win. And the other thing too is with quarterback stats now, like 2 years ago, Justin Herbert threw for over 5,000 yards and no one cared. Like it's just so normalized now, these insane passing stats in a way that I don't think it is normalized yet for wide receivers, just because we haven't had as many. And so my thought would be that, if we do have 4 wide receivers in the 1,600 to 1,800 receiving yards range, that the best of them would probably just win. But it's certainly possible if they are all clustered. And meanwhile, Lamar Jackson breaks the all-time yards record this year, then he might just win. I think the running backs, though, are the way to attack this market, where I just think they're undervalued. I think the fact that we've had back-to-back wide receivers win, the fact that we didn't have really a standout superstar running back last year, but I still do think that a huge part of this award is being the identity of your offense. And people want to point to that the way that, Michael Thomas broke the all-time receptions record and Drew Brees got hurt that year and he was kind of towards the end of his career anyway. Kupp was seen as the best player on the Rams, not Stafford. Last year, everyone thinks that Justin Jefferson is better than Kirk Cousins. And I do think there is an issue with Chase, that he's just so inextricable from Joe Burrow, who everyone thinks is a top 5 quarterback. And Jefferson won last year, and there's going to be potentially more mouths to feed on that offense. And he probably I'd say he's just not going to have as good a season as last year because he set the bar so high. And then guys like McCaffrey's got 4 superstar players around him. And I still think the easiest way to win this award is to be a workhorse running back who puts up 1,750 on the ground, 15 touchdowns, leads your team to the playoffs. And I think the best candidates to do that, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and I think in a weird way, potentially Tony Pollard and Bijan Robinson as well. So those are the guys that I would be looking at. We've spoken about it before, but Bijan 40-1, Tony Pollard 40-1. Henry to me remains an insane price. He's still in the 30-1. You can still hunt him 40-1. Derrick Henry can't be 40-1 to an offensive player of the year. I understand his offensive line sucks. I understand that team is in a great spot, but it's still Derrick Henry. And just through volume, he might be able to get to 1,700 yards. And that team isn't. The offense has question marks. Overall, I think the team is fine and they can win a pretty, a division where they only really have to knock down one team in front of them. I just think that Derrick Henry can't be 40-1. And by the same token, Saquon, with all the stuff that has been swirling around running backs, I think if it is close between like Saquon Barkley and Stephon Diggs, then surely Saquon would just win. But what do you think of the running backs?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting argument. I can't distinguish between the running backs in terms of ultimately who is going to have the standout statistics, which is why I can't really put my finger on one guy here. But the idea that the idea that the wide receivers are clumped is a better word, clumped at the top of the market, and really it's not obvious to me that Chase should be your market favorite here. That opens the door for some uncertainty, either be it a running quarterback or a running back. And I think taking a couple of flyers, if you can find 40-1 prices, then now is a perfectly fine time to make those bets. I would just make sure that there's a Hurts ticket in there too, because if what he put together last year is in any way augmented by the fact that the Eagles have to do more offense this year, then you could be talking about record-breaking stuff.
Yep, I can get around that. The last thing I'll say on this award in terms of like super long shots, the one thing for this award that in a way I'm most interested to see in week one is how much Tank Bigsby actually takes away from Travis Etienne. Because if Etienne is getting a workhorse load, which everyone is just expecting that Tank Bigsby is going to get short down yardage work and steal goal line carries, and he may do that, but he also might not. He's a rookie. Etienne, I think, on talent has the upside to be the best running back in football. Last year, he was second in yards per carry over expected, only behind Nick Chubb. He is explosive. He has the pedigree of being a first-round pick, and he's on a team that is going to be leading a lot of games, I think. And so Etienne is 70-1 to win Offensive Player of the Year. And if he's getting the lion's share of work by margin in week one, then all of a sudden I think that he can, he's a guy who could just be on merit projected forward as like the favorite after week two for this award, and no one will realize, and he'll be 30-1 when he should be 11-1 fair, something like that. So I think Etienne is a guy to watch out for in this one. All right, before we close out with Offensive Rookie of the Year, Drew, if you're looking for a way to start your final Sunday before the regular season kicks off, look no further than MLB Sunday Leadoff exclusively on Peacock. This week, we're featuring two teams in the thick of the National League playoff race as the Phillies travel to American Family Field to face the division-leading Brewers, who never lose anymore. Catch the action live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Peacock.
That feels like a playoff series preview.
Yeah, could well be. Brewers are a team that I'm probably going to bet on in the playoffs and get my heart broken because trotting out Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta in round one is pretty good. All right, Offensive Rookie of the Year, also pretty good, is Bijan Robinson, plus 250, Bryce Young, plus 450, Anthony Richardson, 7-1, Jahmyr Gibbs, plus 750, and then the last of the quote-unquote favorites is CJ Stroud at plus 850. We've talked a fair bit about this market. Has anything changed in your mind recently?
Well, not acutely. We know CJ Stroud is going to be, as expected, the week one starter for the Texans. I look at him as a low ceiling guy in year one, even if he does ultimately, protect the ball. I don't think that offense is going to, truly surprise people. Similarly, I think Anthony Richardson is a pass for now, because I would expect that over the balance of the first half of the season, he is wildly up and down. And Bryce Young, I mean, best of luck to him. The offensive line in Carolina looks like it could be a major issue. And the fact that he does not have DJ Moore to throw to, because he is now in Chicago, could be a problem. So I think realistically, the three bona fide starting quarterbacks who we may expect to see, or who people are expecting to be competitive in this market, may not be, which leaves you with the two running backs who are going to get a decent chunk of work, namely Bijan Robinson, who I know you've made a very, very strong case for over the weeks. That plus 250 is a little shy. Gibbs probably in the same conversation at plus 750 is a little shy. And I think To start the season, if either of these guys shows up and, puts together meaningful counting stats, then, they're going to take a sizable lead over the quarterbacks because, rookie quarterbacks, first month of the season, any of these guys lights the league on fire, it would be a huge, huge shock. So I think you bet against the quarterbacks to start, and then we wait and see if one of these guys can find some form. I'm specifically eyeballing Richardson. I would like to see him kind of drift into the 20-1 range, maybe by about Halloween or so. And then their schedule all of a sudden really turns much more favorably. He does have a couple weapons to work with. He does have the potential for an offensive line that could get cohesive. And he does have, an X factor with his athleticism in terms of producing on the ground. So I'm going to be watching this market pretty carefully, but the best bet I think I'm going to make around Halloween or Thanksgiving.
Yep. I think with this one, firstly, the only long shot I'd really throw out there, one guy I'll be keeping an eye on is Dalton Kincaid, who you can get in the 40-1 type of range where, I don't think he's going to win. It's so hard to win as a rookie tight end, but he will be on an explosive offense. And there is, he could put up silly touchdown numbers and he'll get a lot of publicity if he is playing well. So he's one guy to watch where he could be the second receiving option on the Buffalo Bills. That is in play. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be Gabe Davis will be above him in the pecking order in addition to Stephon Diggs, obviously, but he is one to watch. I think with Bijan, I've heard some people ask me, what's, why are you backing a plus 250, plus 300 favorite this early in the season before the season has even started? And there's two things there. One, I think with the temporal aspect of betting, the most important thing is it just value versus your fair price at that point in time? And if you think the Bijan should be plus 200 right now and you can bet him at plus 300, then in most cases you should just do that. The only exception is if you can project forward that the market isn't going to adjust to his good performance properly. I just don't think that's the case with Bijan. If he comes out and has 120 yards in week one, then that plus 300 is going to be plus 190 pretty quickly. It's not like people don't know who Bijan Robinson is. And plenty of the time, sometimes you have a favorite who just starts the year as the favorite, or not even the favorite, but sometimes their preseason price is their highest price point. Paolo Banchero never drifted for Rookie of the Year. Tyler Hero, Sixth Man of the Year, literally never drifted, just wire to wire. Jahmyr, Most Improved Player, was pretty much the same. So the most important thing is just to take value versus, what you think the fair price is at that given time and not get too cute with projecting out, trying to get a look at something. I think with someone that might contradict what I said about Travis Etienne, but I don't think the market would adjust as quickly to someone like that who's in the 70-1 range. And with Etienne, right now, if I think he's 45-1 fair, it's a better expected value play to take 30-1 on 10-1 fair than 70-1 on 45-1 fair. Yep. And so that's kind of where I'm at there. But I mean, what do you think with all of that?
No, I think that was a really high level description and discussion of how you approach these markets. And I think, Bijan Robinson is carrying the weight of expectation that he will produce right away. And if he does meet that expectation, then you're correct. He will shorten to, pick 'em type price as, as people kind of are, they're getting their confirmation that, he's the guy. I think all of the wide receivers have an asterisk to me to stay away because I don't see any of them getting volume in the systems that they're in to warrant the prices in the teens or even the 20s. And if I was going to take an absolute insane long shot, I'm probably looking for Aiden O'Connell price.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there's a realistic. I mean, Jimmy G is made of glass.
Yes.
If you said there is one quarterback who will not make it through the first quarter of the season healthy, I think he would be the number one with the bullet expectation that he would get hurt. Aiden O'Connell has looked very much the part as far as a guy who can, hold the fort down, and he's working with Devontae Adams, and there are a couple of interesting pieces in that wide receiver room. Overall, it's kind of a decent-ish offense with now Jacobs back in the fold, and so O'Connell might be a guy that could truly shatter expectation here if he gets the job early enough. I don't think I would play anything shorter than about 80-1 there. And he may have moved in that direction already, considering that I'm not the only person with eyes who's seen how well he played in the preseason. But Brian Hoyer certainly is not the answer if Jimmy G goes down. I think, and honestly, like, people are looking at him like he's the entrenched QB2. I feel like he's more of like QB coach than he is actually likely to take the field this year, even in emergency service. So, if Jimmy G can make it to week 3 and then ultimately gets taken out by TJ Watt or somebody on Sunday Night Football, then Aiden O'Connell, he could win enough games. He could do enough statistically to get consideration here. So only true long shot that I think is quasi live.
Yep, I think it's always good in this market to always look at quarterbacks, because if a quarterback, all he needs is the opportunity to come in, and then if he is good, then he's in the slipstream to winning. That's why I was really eyeing off Kenny Pickett towards the end of last season when he got out to like the
Brock
40
Purdy
to 150.
was live.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely the area to look. With the wide receivers, I just think like the way you have to look at this is who has the pathway to being wide receiver 1 on their team. Because if you start projecting injuries for like Justin Jefferson and you're backing a guy at 16-1, needing an injury to Justin Jefferson, that's just stupid. Like it's not a good way to price that market, because the odds of Justin Jefferson getting hurt and then Jordan Addison becoming the guy and then being good enough, like you just need so many things to go right, which aren't going to get you to 16-1. Jackson Smith and Jigba, same thing. Like Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, there's just too many guys there, and he's hurt already. Quentin Johnston, is he really going to be the guy over Mike Williams and Keenan Allen?
I don't think so.
Jalen Hyatt maybe has a better path to being wide receiver 1 than these guys, but there's just like 50 wide receivers on the Giants, and Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, Saquon Barkley was their most targeted player in the passing game last year. And then you get further down, like Rashee Rice, like, it's just not super inspiring. Zay Flowers, I think, is the guy who could become wide receiver 1. I just worry that if that team is actually going to throw the ball as much. I know Todd Monken, allegedly they will, but kind of need to see it. But he would probably be my pick of the wide receivers, just because he has the pathway to that role. But still don't love that bet.
No, I'm with you on that. I think still most targeted player is going to be Mark Andrews, even if Zay Flowers does take over wide receiver 1 role. And rookie wide receiver as a wide receiver 1 is going to garner a lot of attention from the defense's best cornerbacks, and that could ultimately spell a little bit of a rookie wall for Zay Flowers once we get to like November, December.
Yep, he's one to watch though. All right, don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe if you're listening in podcast form, and a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you soon.